This handwritten cookbook belonged to Etta Victoria Blakely. She began writing the recipes in the 1920s and continued to add to the book over the next 2 decades. She has a number of great recipes that bring insight into Prairie and early Canadian cooking. Today we will be making her molasses cookies.
Hi Danielle, what are we cooking today?
So Adele, we're going to be using Etta's cookbook and making her molasses cookie recipe. And like most of us, she added her own flair and unique ingredients, and we will be testing those out. So we'll be making 2 different batches. I'll be using ingredients in our own kitchen, commonly used today.
And I will be using the oddities and recommendations that Etta wrote into her cookbook. That includes bacon grease and sour milk.
So the first thing that we're going to add is either the bacon grease or the butter. So you're going to need a 1/2 cup of butter or a 1/2 cup of bacon grease.
And Lauren's going to show us how we're going to get bacon fat.
In a recipe like this one that calls for bacon drippings, we'll have to cook some bacon. The benefit of using bacon is that it is what you have around. Etta Blakely lived on a farm, and depending on the livestock that you raised, you would have bacon fat readily available as opposed to needing to pay a higher price for proper butter. When you're first cooking bacon, it'll of course start to release fat, but it's when you flip it that more gets released. And so that's when you're going to start to watch for the quantity that's coming off. All right, let's move this off heat. Let that cool. So I want my drippings to solidify in the fridge, so they have to cool down, but you can use the liquid bacon drippings if you would like. It will just be warm, so be careful. And we wait.
We just put in our fat.
Yeah, and I put in my butter, and you should probably cut it up just to make the melting process a little quicker. And they should both be room temperature just to make the process
A lot easier.
move a little faster. That is a smell that's happening over there. I don't know if it's a good one.
It's a smell.
It smells like cat food. Is that just me?
I don't know what to tell you.
So then you're gonna need a 1/2 cup of brown sugar.
And you'll be adding that to both of your versions.
And most commonly with brown sugar, you're gonna pack it. So it is full to the brim.
Okay, we got that packed. Okay. There you
Me?
go. Yep.
I can't get over the smell. I'm sorry. So we will be adding a 1/2 cup of molasses.
I'll be using cooking molasses for my recipe.
And I will be using fancy. And Lauren is here to tell us more.
We are talking about molasses. There are several types of molasses. When you walk into a store, not unlike this one, you will have a couple different options. One of them is blackstrap. Now, blackstrap molasses is the darkest type of molasses you will find in a store. It's very strong. That quintessential flavor, that really dark, really syrupy flavor is what you're gonna get out of this. Now, you're only gonna wanna include this in a recipe if it asks for it, if you really, really like that taste. Fancy molasses is the complete opposite. It's really light, more like brown sugar, and is used for that nice kind of subtle flavor in cooking. Whereas cooking molasses is a mix of the two. For this recipe, we recommend using either fancy molasses or cooking molasses, depending on what you prefer.
It has such a distinct smell, hey? So after that, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of ginger and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon and then a teaspoon of baking soda.
And I'll be adding the same for my version.
So after you add all your ingredients together, you're gonna take it to your stove.
So we are now down in the kitchen and we're gonna start boiling our mixture here. So this is what mine looks like right now. It looks a lot different from Danielle's because Danielle's butter wasn't soft like my bacon fat. So we're gonna get this boiling and see how it turns out. So now our mixture is starting to melt. We're going to be constantly stirring it just because we don't want that sugar in the molasses to burn. As you can see here, mine's melting a lot quicker than Danielle's is. So if you needed to make these cookies fast and you had bacon fat, this may be the way to go. We'll see how it tastes though. So you can see here my mixture is starting to boil. I'm going to take it off the heat now and let it start cooling. You can see here that my mixture is a lot darker than Danielle's.
If you have any idea why our recipes look so different, send us a message or leave a comment below. Now we're going to leave our mixtures to cool to room temperature, and then we're going to add eggs and sour milk.
And the reason why we're not adding those ingredients right now is because the mixtures are still too hot, and if we added them now, they're going to actually cook. So we're about to make sour milk, but first let's head over to Lauren and she can teach us a little bit more about it.
100 years ago, one thing that Strathcona County was known for was the number of dairy farmers we had in the region. So many that we in fact used to be called the Dairy Belt. So if you were living on one of these dairy farms, of course you'd have a fair amount of milk products around. So things like butter were very easy to get a hold of, but also raw milk. That is, milk that came directly from the cow. In this recipe, Mrs. Blakely recommends the addition of sour milk. If you were living on a dairy farm, even 100 years ago, this would be something you would have easy access to. So when you are milking a cow, the milk that comes out is referred to as raw milk. And this can be used to make anything from cheese to butter. But if you take some of this milk and set it in a warm area for a period of time, say overnight, it will eventually sour. And this, when added to recipes, gives a really nice flavor and a little bit of depth to your final product. We, of course, do not have access to unpasteurized raw milk like we did 100 years ago. So what we can do instead to replicate that flavor is take a little bit of milk and add some vinegar or lemon juice to let it sour and curdle, and you'll get a similar flavor.
All right, so we've mixed our 1 cup of milk with our 1 tablespoon of vinegar, and now we're going to let that sit for 5 minutes.
So now more than ever, it's really important to sanitize the surfaces that you're going to use and bake on or roll out your dough.
So now we're going to crack our eggs. We got 2 eggs for each recipe, and we're going to beat them. All right, so we have let our mixtures cool. As you can see, mine is very thick. Yeah, mine's a little more runny than that. Yeah. So now we're gonna add our beaten eggs, and I'm gonna add my sour milk. Oh, not all of it. Oh, it's only a quarter cup. No.
She's ruined it.
So I accidentally added all of the milk, which was the cup. You're only supposed to add a quarter, so I'm redoing this right now, and I will show you what my end product looks like. It does not look appetizing.
So we think we know why she added the milk. It's just the consistency before you would have added the milk was very, very dense. And now that we've added the milk, our 2 recipes look very similar. So it would have been to make it a little less thick. So we also think that the milk would have mild that really dense kind of flavor out of it. We are going to add flour to the recipes. And it actually doesn't say in Etta's recipe how much flour, so we're just going to gradually add it in. A nice little thing that we noticed when we were reading her cookbook is that she actually spelled flour F-L-O-W-E-R, and it just kind of points out to a little bit about her and what she was like.
You really gotta use your muscles with this one. So I've added about 2.5 cups, maybe a little bit more. And I've added about 3 cups, give or take. It's getting hard to work with now, so I'm going to put it on the table and work it with my hands.
It's kind of an old school technique that my grandma does, but after a while she just stops counting how many cups you put in, and you actually just keep putting flour on the table, and you just allow the dough to absorb the flour rather than counting it. Just also allows your dough not to stick to the table and kind of take up the flour as needed. Yeah, yours looks really good. Mine's getting there, I think.
I think mine's probably actually almost
Yeah,
good.
yours is looking good.
Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So we are now at the point to cut out our shapes. I'm going to be team gingerbread man.
And I'm gonna be team tree.
So let's get cutting. Okay, so now we're going to put our cookies on our cookie sheet, but we're going to do a little experiment first. So I'm going to fill this cookie tray with half of my cookies and half of Danielle's, and this tray is going to go into the fridge. And then we're going to fill up another cookie tray with the rest of the cookies and put those right into the oven. And we're going to see how the chilled cookies turn out compared to the ones that went straight into the oven.
In Etta's cookbook, there wasn't a designated baking time or temperature. So standard baking temperature is 350 degrees. And then time, we're gonna do about 10 minutes and kind of assess from there. We cook these for 12 minutes and we think they're done. They still have a pretty soft inside, which we like. What do you think? What do you think? Ow. These are the chilled cookies and we cook them for 12 minutes as well. We personally like them a little bit chewy, but you could cook them longer to make them crispy, like a traditional molasses or ginger cookie.
All right, so we are going to start our taste test, but because Danielle and I can't sit this close to each other without our masks on, I'm going to try the cookies first, and then Danielle's going to come back, and she'll try her cookies after me. Okay, so I'm going to try the cookie molasses with baking fat cookie. So,
Okay, I'm gonna try the bacon, fat, or grease and the cooking molasses one first.
not bad for flavor. It's not overly sweet as one would expect. It's a nice like savory cookie, so if you're looking for something maybe not sweet, I think this is probably the cookie for you, but it's really good.
It's really good. I don't know what else to say. I'm trying the other one now.
So next up is the Team Tree. This is the one with the fancy molasses and the butter.
I actually think the biggest difference is that this one's crunchier than the molasses and like the bacon fat one. I don't know if that's to do with the shape or it's actually the ingredients.
So this cookie is actually really nice too. It doesn't have like the deep flavor as the cookie molasses and the baking fat provided in the other cookie. Not overly sweet either. Actually, to be honest, there isn't a whole lot of difference between the cookies in taste. Just the gingerbread man had a more of a, I guess, a deeper kind of savory taste, and this one doesn't. But this is a really nice cookie. It's nice and soft. Really, really nice.
Yeah, it was really good. We had so much fun today baking these cookies, and we want to say thank you to Etta for her 100-year-old recipe.
Let us know if you guys end up trying these recipes out, if you make any alterations, and also give us some feedback. Let us know what you thought of how we made the cookies and if you would make any suggestions. Thanks so much for watching and take care.
Bye-bye for now. You actually do have some flour on your mask. Sorry.
I
didn't say
told
this.
you.
I didn't say that.